Okay, so picture this. You're out there trekking through the African bush, hacking away at vines, and then bam, you stumble upon the ruins of a lost city.
And not just like a little village, right? We're
Right.
talking full-on sophisticated cities right here in southern Africa
Mhm.
that thrived centuries ago.
Cities that were trading internationally and had gold and architecture and mysteries that still have experts scratching their heads.
It's really fascinating when you think about it. These cities weren't just isolated pockets. They were really plugged into this global network, exchanging all kinds of things across huge distances.
Okay, I'm already hooked. So where are we starting on this historical treasure map?
Let's kick things off with Queening.
Queening.
Yeah, it's a lost city, hidden in plain sight in South Africa's Sukerbosrand National Park.
Hidden in plain sight. You mean like people were just walking past it and had no idea?
Pretty much. And the craziest thing is we wouldn't even know it was there if it weren't for some seriously high-tech wizardry.
Okay, now you've got to tell me what kind of wizardry are we talking about?
LiDAR. It's basically like an X-ray for time using lasers.
Lasers. So they were shooting lasers at the ground and found a city.
Well, researchers were flying over the park with this LiDAR tech, and it basically let them see through all the vegetation.
And
The
underneath,
whole city.
hold on, you're telling me they found a lost city using lasers? That's like something straight out of a movie. What exactly did they find?
It was mind-blowing. I mean, this wasn't just some tiny village. It was a huge metropolis. It could have been home to like 10,000 people.
10,000 people.
Yeah.
Wow, and all hidden under a bunch of trees and stuff. What else did this laser magic uncover?
Well, the LiDAR mapped out something like 800 to 900 homesteads, these stone-walled passageways that were probably used for cattle herds, and these huge enclosures called kraals,
Crowd.
basically ancient cattle pens.
God, so like giant cattle ranches.
Exactly, and some of these kraals could hold almost 1,000 animals. So we're talking serious cattle business here.
Okay, so they were really into their cattle. But what about those ash heaps we talked about in the prep notes? Did they find any of those in Queenan?
Oh yeah, they found tons of them. But here's the thing, they were placed right at the entrances of the bigger homesteads.
So it wasn't just random trash, they were arranging their ash.
Exactly. And get this, the bigger and more impressive the ash heap, the wealthier the family.
So it was like a status symbol.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Like they would say, hey, look at all this ash. We're loaded.
That's hilarious. It's like their version of a McMansion. But were there any other signs that they were trying to one-up each other?
There were these short stone towers found near some of the fancier homesteads.
Towers, what were those for?
Honestly, we're not really sure.
Some kind of ancient mystery?
Yeah, maybe burial sites for important people or grain silos. Who knows? It's still a puzzle.
So Queening's got sprawling cityscapes, cattle galore, status symbol, ash heaps, and mysterious towers. That's quite the resume. But where does gold fit into all of this?
That takes us to our next stop. A kingdom shrouded in both gold and mystery. Mapungubwe.
Mapungubwe. That name sounds like something out of an Indiana Jones film. Let's dig into it.
Yeah, Mapungubwe is where the gold connection really starts to come into focus. So imagine this, it's the 1930s, and a group of explorers are on this hilltop, Mapungubwe Hill, and they're poking around, probably not expecting to find much.
Right.
And then, bam, they hit this treasure trove of artifacts.
You mean like a literal chest full of gold and jewels?
Well, not exactly.
Yeah.
But it was a motherlode of gold, ivory beads, pottery, you name it, all pointing to this powerful and sophisticated kingdom that had just vanished centuries before.
Wait, so they just stumbled on this lost kingdom? Were they even looking for it?
It's kind of a mix. They had heard rumors and legends about a lost city in the area.
Like local stories and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the sheer scale of what they found blew everyone's minds. It totally upended what people thought they knew about the history of Southern Africa.
So they went in expecting maybe a small village and found a whole kingdom.
Pretty much. And it proved that there were these complex and wealthy societies here way before Europeans ever set foot in Africa.
That's a huge deal. It rewrites history.
Yeah,
Okay, so let's talk treasure. What kind of goodies did they dig up?
You ready for this? They found a tiny golden rhinoceros.
A tiny golden rhino.
Yeah, like no bigger than the palm of your hand. But the detail is mind-blowing. It's made of wood, covered in these thin sheets of gold.
Wow. That's both adorable and impressive. So were they like expert goldsmiths?
Definitely. And that little golden rhino is actually a big clue
Got to what?
to understanding Mapungubwe's place in the world.
Gone.
It tells us that they were part of this vast trade network that stretched across continents. They were trading gold and ivory for goods from as far away as Arabia, India, even China.
Hold on, you're saying they had trade routes that went all the way to China back then. I always thought these ancient civilizations were kind of isolated.
That's a common misconception, but in reality, there was so much interconnection happening even back then. These threads that wove together different parts of the world.
So Mapungubwe was like a global trading hub.
You got it. Okay, so we've got this thriving kingdom, tons of gold international connections. What could go wrong?
Right, why did it collapse?
That's the million-dollar question.
We have theories, of course.
Like what?
Well, climate change, shifting trade routes, political upheaval, it's still a puzzle.
So another historical cold case. Okay, we've explored a laser-revealed city and a kingdom with golden treasures. Where to next?
Now we're heading north to the granddaddy of them all, Great Zimbabwe.
Great Zimbabwe. That rings a bell. Isn't that a country?
It is. But we're not talking about the modern nation. We're going back in time to an ancient city made entirely of stone.
A city made of stone. Okay, I'm picturing massive stone structures, crumbling walls, maybe a hidden chamber or two.
Picture this. You're standing in this valley surrounded by rolling hills, and rising up in front of you are these immense stone walls.
How tall are we talking?
Some of them are over 30 feet high,
Mm-hmm.
and they curve and flow with the landscape, enclosing this maze of passageways, enclosures, and towers.
All made of stone.
All of it. And here's the kicker. They didn't use any mortar.
Wait, no mortar? How did they even build something like that?
It's a testament to the incredible skill and ingenuity of African architects and builders. For decades, colonial biases fueled this narrative that Africans couldn't have possibly built something so impressive.
So they were basically saying that someone else must have built it.
Exactly. But science has debunked that myth. Scientific dating and comparisons to earlier settlements like Mapungubwe prove that Great Zimbabwe was a purely African achievement.
That's incredible to think about that for so long. People refused to believe that Africans could have built something so grand. But it just goes to show how much we still have to learn and unlearn about the past. Okay, so what was life like inside these massive walls? How many people lived there?
During its peak around the 14th century, Great Zimbabwe probably housed around 25,000 people.
That's a pretty big city for back then.
Right, and the layout tells us that it was a very organized society with a clear hierarchy. At the top, you have the hill complex, which is perched on this steep hill.
Easy to defend.
Exactly. And that's where the royal enclosure is thought to have been. Then down in the valley, you have these sprawling ruins, including the iconic Great Enclosure with its huge elliptical outer wall.
Okay, so it wasn't just about building impressive walls. It was a well-planned city. So was Great Zimbabwe also part of this gold trade network?
Oh, absolutely. There's evidence of beads, porcelain, and glass from all over the world, which tells us that Great Zimbabwe was connected to this vast network of trade routes that crisscrossed the African continent. And let's not forget about the gold itself.
Right, Great Zimbabwe was sitting on some serious gold deposits.
Exactly. And it's very likely that gold was their main export, the thing that fueled their wealth and influence.
Makes sense. So is there any hard proof that connects Great Zimbabwe to this network?
There's one piece of evidence that really seals the deal. They found a 14th century copper coin from Kilwa Kisiwani within the ruins.
Kilwa Kisiwani. Remind me, where's that again?
Kilwa Kisiwani was a major trading hub on the Swahili coast in what is now Tanzania.
Right, the Swahili coast. So this tiny coin traveled all the way from the coast to Great Zimbabwe.
Exactly. And it shows us just how interconnected these seemingly distant societies were.
It's like a tiny time capsule linking these two worlds. But Great Zimbabwe wasn't just about economics and trade, right? There was also a spiritual side to this city.
You're right. The hill complex in particular is thought to have been a sacred space where they performed rituals and honored their ancestors.
Interesting. So it wasn't just a palace, it was a holy site.
Exactly. And there are even accounts of a key ceremony that involved a spiritual guardian, a figure who held the symbolic key to the site.
A key ceremony? What was that all about?
We're still figuring that out.
Yeah.
But it adds another layer of intrigue to this already fascinating story.
It reminds us that these weren't just ancient ruins. They were living, breathing spaces with beliefs and rituals that we're only beginning to understand. So we've gone from a city revealed by lasers, to a kingdom with a golden rhino, to a massive stone city with spiritual guardians. It's been quite the journey.
And the journey's not over yet.
Yeah.
We still have to follow that ancient gold trail all the way to the coast.
So we've got all this gold flowing out of Great Zimbabwe, heading towards the Swahili coast. But how did it actually get there? Was there like a gold highway or something?
Not quite a highway, but definitely well-established routes. The gold probably traveled through key outposts like Manakini in modern-day Mozambique.
Manakeni, I don't think I've heard of that one. What was so special about this place?
Well, sadly, Manikenny's history is a little fragmented.
How so?
The museum that housed most of its artifacts was destroyed in a fire.
Oh no, a fire. That's awful. So much history just gone.
Yeah, it's a huge loss for archaeologists. But despite that, we still have some clues.
Like what?
Well, they found gold in graves at Manikenny. So it
Yeah.
seems like gold wasn't just a commodity there. It had a deeper cultural significance.
It's interesting how the perception of gold changes depending on where you were along this trade route.
Right.
In Great Zimbabwe, it was all about power and status for the elite. In Kilwa, it was more about trade and profit.
Right.
And in Manikenny, it seems like it was tied to spirituality and burial rituals.
Exactly. It shows you how complex these trade routes were. They
Mm.
weren't just about moving goods around. They were also these channels for cultural exchange, influencing beliefs and practices all along the way.
Okay, so we've got gold moving from Great Zimbabwe through places like Manikenny towards Kilwa. But how exactly did they transport it? Did they have camel caravans or something?
Probably a combination of things. Rivers like the Limpopo would have been essential, especially for heavier stuff.
Makes sense.
But they probably also used overland routes and even coastal shipping. This was a massive network constantly adapting to the terrain and the politics of the time.
So it was a real logistical challenge moving all that gold over such long distances. And at the end of the line, you had Kilwa, this bustling port city ready to connect southern Africa to the rest of the world. You called it an entrepot earlier. What exactly does that mean?
An entrepot is basically a global trading hub. Think of it like a giant warehouse where goods from all over the place get collected, stored, and then re-exported.
Got it. So Kilwa was like the Amazon of its day.
Something like that. Merchants from Arabia, Persia, India, even China would all come to Kilwa, drawn by the promise of gold, ivory, and other African treasures.
So Kilwa was getting rich by connecting buyers and sellers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the Swahili coast, where Kilwa was located, became this incredible melting pot of cultures. The Arabic, Persian, and Indian influences are all still visible today, even in the Swahili language.
Wow. So these ancient cities connected by gold actually played a role in shaping the world we know today.
Exactly. They remind us that history is full of surprises. These discoveries challenge our assumptions and force us to rethink what we thought we knew about the past.
Southern Africa wasn't just some quiet corner of the world. It was this vibrant hub of global trade and cultural exchange.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder what else is out there just waiting to be discovered. I mean, if Lidor could uncover a city like Quinning, who knows what other secrets are hidden beneath the surface?
That's what I love about history. There's always something new to uncover. That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. But hopefully it's left you with a sense of awe and wonder about these incredible lost cities of Southern Africa.
And who knows, maybe it will inspire you to do some exploring of your own. You never know what you might find.